I'd like to welcome everyone to the Thursday, May 20th, 2021 regular meeting of the Marysville Board of Education. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Luke?
Here.
Ms. Savage?
Here.
Ms. Powers?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Devine?
Here. Thank you. And now if you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And tonight, we're going to start off with some recognition. So, on over here. And we've got a couple of committees that helped us out this year, and so we want to take the opportunity to thank a variety of people who really helped us navigate throughout this school year. Tonight, we're going to be recognizing members of our community who worked to help us make the best decisions we could during COVID. The Superintendent's Advisory Committee started working last summer to design and structure a learning platform that offered robust educational options for families and students. As the year continued, we called upon these members to help us understand data, inform our thinking around the school experience, and provide feedback for next steps. The Superintendent's Medical Advisory Team provided medical expertise and research to increase our understanding of the pandemic, spread, symptoms, and all things COVID. More importantly, they were thought partners for the district and helped to solve several unforeseen issues that we faced. And finally, the Extended Learning Opportunities Committee collaborated and provided feedback to principal leads about summer school offerings for students K through 12. So tonight, we'd like to recognize the members of our committee who are here. And yes, so we're going to have this.
So Mrs. Devine, we're going to recognize all the members of these important committees and task force throughout this past year. We're going to read everybody's name.
Okay.
Not everybody was able to make it this evening, but again, we're going to read everybody's name here tonight to recognize them and thank them. So we'd like to start off and say thank you to Ashley Thompson, Karen Wells, Ken Chafin, Tom Cochran, Kristen Jones, Ryan Walker.
Thank you very much, Brian. I think so.
Megan Stevens,
Yes.
Michelle Koffenbarger, Kathy McInnes, Carol Lentz, Tim Canale, Ryan Gross, Kevin Brandfaus, Dale Jennings, Carrie Faust, David Hensiger, Cassandra St. John, Jared Weiss, Lisa Tingley-Hawk.
And I think we also need to mention that Lisa provided these snacks for everyone. So we appreciate that too. That was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Candy Weichel, Jennifer Della Hostria, Jeanette Wimmers, Kate Herdebeis, Kristen Berry, Linda Perkins,
It's good to see you, Linda. Thank you very much. You really appreciate it.
Tom Ely, Carmen Irving, Holly Zweizig, Amanda Fishball, Jessica Carmen, Erica Goodwin, Kat Patrick, Sarah Tabernick, Danette McKinney, Chelsea Rayborn, Lisa Hay, Andrew Heller, Dave Murphy, Julie Olszewski, Leanne Shepard, Laura Klein, Rachel Steele, and Kelly Heminger.
So obviously, we owe them a big round of applause. And really, we couldn't have done the work that we did this year without all the thought and effort that you put into all of those meetings, and just, I'm sure, all of the reading that you did and research. So we We appreciate you so much. And really, this past year showed us how vital our community partnerships are. So thank you, parents, staff members, and everyone else who couldn't be here tonight. We appreciate them as well. Next on our agenda, we're going to be recognizing the 2020 and 21 retirees from our district. And I know a couple of them couldn't be here tonight, but we're still going, I want to read about each one of the retirees. So I'm going to start with Edward Burdette, custodian in the district for over 30 years, working at Edgewood and Mill Valley. He retired at the end of 2020. Next, we have Ms. Karen Hyland. She was a high school math teacher in the district for 29 years. Karen also served as the math department chair for many years and is a member of the NHS Athletic Hall of Fame. Thank you, Karen. You can stand over there. Next, we have Kelly Creely. She's been an elementary teacher in the district for 31 years. She's taught kindergarten and reading recovery during her career at MEBSD. Bruce Murdoch couldn't be with us this evening, but he was a bus driver for 18 years of service to the students in Marysville. And I actually worked with him before he started working in the district, so I've known him for a long time. And so we wish him the best. Next, we have Linda Murdoch. She's retiring after 19 years in the district. Linda is currently at Naven Elementary as an intervention specialist. And we have Ms. Paula Nickel. She's our transportation secretary, and you probably have seen her behind the wheel of a bus quite frequently as well. She's retiring after 21 years in the district, but she told Nan and me that we'll probably see her in the future. So, when she needs a break from her husband and farming, right? And a couple more, we have Yvonne Overfield. She has 30 years of service. She's worked in SAC as a substitute, a program assistant, and team lead, along with her current role as admin accounting support. And finally, Joseph Williams had 15 years in the district, and Joe has worked as a bus driver and a bus aide. So for all of you retirees, thank you so much for being a part of our family, for caring for our students, and most importantly, all of the service that you've given us over the many years. I didn't even count up how many total years it is between all of you, but I know, like I said, we're going to see some of you in the future. If we don't see you in the buildings, we'll see you out in the community, and we just couldn't thank you enough for everything that you've done for our district. So you've made us proud of you, Monarchs. Thank you.
Before you leave, ladies, before you leave, I want to tell you, I've had the pleasure of knowing all of you for a number of years, and I can't tell you how happy I am that you're going to be headed into retirement, and hopefully you have a long and enjoyable retirement. And I want to tell you how much your service to the students in this building, in this district, has meant to the other teachers in the district. Each one of you in your own way has been a pillar that has supported this district in numerous ways. And we really do, and I especially appreciate everything that you have done, as well as all of those
others that are retiring this year. So thank you very, very much.
I would only add that that is a significant amount of talent walking out our doors. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you so much for everything you've done, and it really even for me transitioning into a new place. 4 of you in particular have extended an olive branch in different ways, and I appreciate that. And, best of luck in your new adventures.
Yes. Okay, thank you again. All right, I would now accept a motion to adopt the agenda for our meeting this evening.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Powers,
Second.
second by Ms. Savage. Roll call.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. Next, we are at public participation, and I believe we do have some this evening. Okay. While Ms. Allen is going out there to get the sign-up sheet, for those of you who are watching, really wanted to talk first of all about kind of going back to the recognition and the importance of our partnerships with our community. We really value input from everyone in the community. We know as elected officials, it's important that we listen to people. And so although we're not required to have public participation, we all feel that it's important to offer our community the opportunity to address the board during our public meetings. Per board policy, we allot a total of 30 minutes for public participation, with each person having up to 3 minutes to address the board. And as the first person comes in here, just a reminder that our focus is to listen and, when necessary, ensure follow-up with the appropriate person or people. This really isn't meant to be a discussion that our community copies, or if somebody wants to discuss something, they can call us on the phone as well. But because this is our business meeting, we really need to stay on track and take care of the business of the district. It doesn't necessarily mean we won't be discussing some things that are brought up tonight at a future point during the meeting, but again, the public participation is not supposed to be is not meant to be a discussion between the participants and the board at this time. It's just a chance for us to hear the comments. So with that, I was just explaining to people, hello there, good evening, that we allot a total of 30 minutes, and each person has 3 minutes, and our treasurer will keep track of the time. And so we just ask that you be mindful at that time, and when he says your time is up, then it'll be time for you to move back to the cafeteria and let the next person come up. And so again, we'll also ask that you state your name and address for the record, and then please proceed. And welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jenna Archibald. My address is 1381 Red Top Court, Marysville. And I'm going to read a letter I wrote. I'm here today as a parent of future Marysville school students. My daughter will be starting kindergarten in the 2022-23 school year, and my son will follow 2 years later. I'm hoping that my daughter will be able to attend school at Edgewood for kindergarten along with all the other children in our neighborhood. The reason I'm uncertain at this time whether she will attend is because of how this current school year has gone. My husband and I are both educators in another local public school district and have experienced firsthand what the 2020-21 school year was like. We do not want this for our children. We have not participated in any activities this past year due to COVID restrictions. Not COVID, but the fear and hysteria surrounding it. I'm trying to protect my children from being in a fearful environment. We will not accept our children going to school in masks, having hand sanitizer squirted onto their little hands constantly, or being made to believe that they have to distance themselves from people in order to stay safe. We also will not be participating in a COVID vaccination. We teach our children about true health. We eat an abundance of healthy fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. My children only drink water with the exception of special occasions. They get plenty of fresh air, sunshine, and time to play outside with friends. My children do not have a clue about COVID, and that is because we've made a conscious effort this year to keep them away from the fear. We will continue to do that moving forward if it remains necessary. As planning for next school year begins, I ask that you do not reinstate the mask mandate for students and staff. Children need to see their teachers' faces. They need to see their peers' faces. This is crucial to their social, emotional development and well-being. Allow parents to make the choice whether or not their children wears masks at school. Go back to the old normal and allow children to eat lunch together and play at recess together. This is so much more important for them than social distancing. And please, stop the ridiculous quarantine measures. They do nothing but send perfectly healthy people home for 2 weeks. This is a great disservice to our children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Younger.
There's a lag in what they can see.
Okay.
That's right.
Hi, Penny. Yeah. Hi, Penny. Good to see you. So yes, you'll have 3 minutes to present to the board, and if you start just by stating your name and address, and then our treasurer will keep track of the time, and if you run over, he'll let you know it's time to stop. So. So, thank you, Penny.
Hi, my name is Penny Yunker, 18081 Crodler Turner Road, Marysville. I have a concern for the face mask mandate. The children in our school districts have been required to wear a face mask while at school for many hours. After doing much research, I have learned the following about masks. No studies have been done to demonstrate that either a cloth or N95 mask has any effect on transmission of the COVID-19 virus. Any recommendations, therefore, have to be based on studies of influenza virus transmission. 17 of the best studies were analyzed and concluded that none of the studies established a conclusive relationship between mask use and protection against influenza. This is why masks have never been recommended for use during the seasonal flu outbreak. Although the public health authorities began by saying masks don't work, then flip-flopped saying they do work, the science did not change, nor did new science appear. Your mission states to provide educational opportunities for students of all ages and abilities to reach their fullest potential. To reach their fullest potential, wearing a mask all day at school is not allowing our children to reach their fullest potential. Masking and social distancing has a negative effect on children's mental health, social structure, when not allowed to interact normally with peers and friends. Masks reduce children's ability to learn, as well as picking up auditory and visual cues. Physical health issues. A laboratory analysis was conducted on a fresh mask worn by children for 6 to 8 hours. The masks were found to be contaminated with 82 bacterial colonies and 4 mold colonies. Bacteria, molds, and viruses grow on the warm, moist mask interface. Masks inhibit airflow into and out of the lungs. This lowers blood oxygen and therefore increases heart rate and the depth of breath causing bacteria, mold, and viruses to be inhaled deep into the lungs, where respiratory disease far worse than COVID-19 can result. Inappropriate management of face masks. Touching, not changing frequently, and not washing them regularly is a risk of getting sick. Seeing masks soiled and stained on children's faces show that they are using a mask that should never be reused. The World Health Organization is adamant that if face masks are not worn carefully, correctly, and kept sanitary, they are worse than ineffective. In conclusion, face masks are not only ineffective, they are more dangerous than parents are being told. Scientific study after scientific study over the course of many years have concluded that wearing face masks for extended periods of time puts the wearer, especially children, in imminent risk of physical and psychological harm. To reach their fullest potential, yes, I agree with your mission. So let's drop the face mask and let our children get back to life where they will reach their fullest potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
Hello there. Welcome to our meeting. So you will have 3 minutes to address the board, and if you would start, our treasurer will keep track of the time for you, and if you would just start by stating your name and your address.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Am I
Yes,
standing
you're-
right
yep,
here?
you're
Okay,
right
you
there,
hear me?
yes, that's
Hi,
perfect.
everybody.
I know, hello.
I know some of you guys.
Yes.
This guy lives on the same road I do. He knows me.
Yep.
I'm legit, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. My name is Lurleen Smith. I live at 21500 West Lake Lee Road, Marysville. I'm here because of the mask mandate, and I have had just a lot of things I just don't like it about our children having to wear all these masks. I'm a grandma, and I have 7 children that graduated from Marysville. I have a lot of grandchildren that graduated from Marysville, and I have great-grandchildren that are going to Marysville now. And so I am really concerned about the mask mandate, and my one daughter who spoke just before me, that's one of my daughters. And so if you can, I'm going to go along with what she said, and then I'm going to add a little bit to what she already has told you. And wait a minute, I gotta get it out here. Okay, this is an open letter written by 70 doctors, and this is what they wrote. The face mask requirement at school is bad for children's general well-being and should be abolished. 2, we see in our practices an increasing number of children and young people with complaints due to the rules of conduct that have been imposed on them. 3, the doctors mentioned anxiety and sleep problems as well as behavioral disorders. 4, mandatory face masks in school are a major threat to children's development. It ignores the essential needs of the growing child. The well-being of children and young people is highly dependent on emotional attachment to others. It is clear that healthy children living through COVID-19 heal without complications. And I think that we need to take that into consideration because our children just don't contact the disease like adults do. And I just don't think it's necessary for them to wear the mask. And just like I was thinking about my husband Frank, who was in construction and did a lot of construction. And I know he would have, I don't know what he would have thought about that now, but I know that I have seen where construction men have put those masks on and done drywall and did all that stuff, and it would still go through those masks. So why do they have to wear these masks? These kids aren't going to get sick like adults do. So I thank you for listening to me, and I hope you take this into consideration for this. I'd love to see it end with the school year. Wouldn't that be great? So these kids wouldn't even, maybe they'd give them a gift for the last 2 weeks of school or whatever. So I hope you consider it, and thanks for your attention.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, neighbor.
Good evening. Welcome to our meeting. So I've just explained everybody has 3 minutes to present to the board, and if you would please start by stating your name and your address, and our treasurer will keep track of the time for you. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm Heidi Orhood. My address is 24570 Lunda Road, Raymond. I am also here to address the mask mandate. My main concern is for the children and the masking and social distancing and the negative effects on their mental health. My daughter's 15. I have a freshman daughter, and she is also in the magnificent Marysville Show Choir. And it's been very difficult this year, but they persevered wonderfully. And but the fact that they had to wear masks while these kids are working hard. And the show choir really moves, and she would come home from practice and performances with headaches. She's never had headaches in her life. So that was my main thing about that. I just think that's ridiculous. Also, I want to address the fact that masks reduce children's ability to learn and their auditory cues and visual cues. And the reason I address that is my oldest daughter, who also attended Marysville, wears hearing aids. Now, if she had been in the school system wearing her hearing aids, this would have been terrible for her. Now, she's grown up and she's out in the workforce, but again, it's been very challenging for her because of she reads lips a lot in addition to having her hearing aids. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then also children, it's been proven that they don't really and aren't really necessarily affected by this virus. It also, they lack the ACE2 receptors in their nostrils required to bind to the virus. The World Health Organization website states asymptomatic spread is very rare. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Well, welcome to our meeting. So part of our public participation policy is you'll have 3 minutes to address the board, and our treasurer will keep track of the time for you. And if you wouldn't mind, please start by stating your name and address.
Okay, I will. Amy Eads, I live at 1611 Valley Drive. I prepared some notes just to stay on time, and looks like you have a large group. So, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I've prepared some comments just so I stay within the time limit. Over the last 14 months, we've all made sacrifices in the name of safety. We have all missed time with our families, missed events due to cancellation or attendance limitations, have worn masks, stayed home, and made many sacrifices. The pandemic has affected everyone and everything and has required all of us to be creative and flexible. As vaccines came along and became more readily available, even faster than expected, we all began to feel more protected and see some normalcy returning. In the last couple of weeks, the governor announced that all mandates will be lifted on June 2nd. Within the past week, the CDC also adjusted their guidance to align with the science and eliminate mask wearing and social distancing for vaccinated people. As of Monday, the governor has adjusted his guidance to align with the CDC recommendations. The new health order says no masks or social distancing is required for vaccinated people and no capacity limits for outdoor events. Excuse me. With this in mind, I was hopeful that plans for our outdoor graduation would be adjusted to allow graduates to have all the important people in attendance to watch them walk across that stage. My high school senior has handled the disappointments of this year with more grace than I ever could have. He and our family have followed all the rules and mandates, and this has been a less than ideal senior year. Our high school principals have been clear in their communication that their approach to all senior events has been to maximize them within the current mandates, even if it means last-minute adjustments. In my conversation with Mr. Cochran yesterday, he explained the reason we cannot open up graduation to more people is because the interpretation of the mandate is that the school is required to provide 6 feet of space between all groups, regardless of vaccination status. If you've been watching the news in the past week or even visited some of our local retailers, you will notice many signs indicating social distancing and masks are only required for unvaccinated people. It is clear the responsibility has shifted from the establishment to the person when it comes to safety. As leaders of our district, I'm asking you to reconsider the ticket limit for graduation and allow all of our graduates the opportunity to have the important people in their life witness this important milestone. Please consider if you're doing the absolute most you can do for the senior class. Please don't compare this year to last year as you make decisions. Just 11 days after graduation, all health orders are going to be lifted. Is something magical happening between May 22nd and June 2nd? I'm willing to bet the majority of the people who are left at home, unable to attend graduation, are grandparents. These are also the ones who've experienced the most isolation over the past year and are most likely to be fully vaccinated. All they want is an opportunity to watch their grandchildren walk across that stage and enjoy a proud moment with another generation of their family. You all have the opportunity to make a difference for our graduates and their families on Saturday. It's not too late to maximize this last event for our senior class. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's some water over there if you'd like to take a water on your way out. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to our meeting. So I've just been explaining to everybody, we allot 3 minutes for each person, and our treasurer will keep track of the time.
Okay.
And so if you wouldn't mind, just start, please, by sharing your name and your address with us. Thank
My
you.
name's Catherine Brockman. Sorry, I'm really nervous.
Yeah.
I live at 557 Bridal Drive, Marysville, Ohio.
Okay. Do you mind maybe stand a little bit closer to that? That'd be good.
Good?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
This is just the letter that I wrote in. So I'm just going to read that. Marysville School Board members, I am writing to you today as a parent of 2 Marysville school students. My daughter will be going into 3rd grade, and my son will be going into 5th grade here at Creekview next year. The past year and a half has been incredibly difficult for many people for a lot of reasons, and most of all our children, whom I believe have been the most overlooked. While I understand difficult decisions had to be made and many were based on changing information, I now feel it is time to reevaluate these decisions in the best interest of our children. Science and research are now showing that children, even when contracting COVID, are not known spreaders and cases tend to be more mild. Our children are, however, now facing many other challenges that pose a far greater risk to their overall well-being. Children are developing anxiety disorders and fear relating to masks and COVID in general. They are fearful if their mask falls down, fearful of not having it up soon enough prior to entering school and being around friends. This is unhealthy for their growth and development as well as social interactions. As planning for the next school year begins, and with mask mandates now ending, I ask that you remove the mask mandate for students and staff and vote to make masks voluntary for next year. Not seasonal masks as have been discussed, but voluntary for the entire school year. Children need to see their teachers' faces. They need to see their peers and friends' faces. This is essential for growth and development. Allow parents to make the choice whether or not children wear their masks to school. This is much more important for them than social distancing and fear of COVID. It is time to take a stand for our children, not the teachers, not teachers' unions and other political entities, but our children. I realize also that a lot of decisions come from guidelines based on the health department and the CDC. However, it's been left up to each individual school district. We, the parents, should have the choice whether or not to mask our child. And I'm sure you are all aware. I know that Marysville only has 4 days left of school, but Ben Logan, Triad, and North Union have all recently ended their mask mandates for this current school year. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
very much.
And Jonathan, this is is this last one who has signed up?
Last public purchase.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to our meeting.
Hi.
How are you doing tonight?
Fine.
Good. So we allot 3 minutes per person, and our treasurer will keep track of time. So if you wouldn't mind starting first by just stating your name and your address.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Becky Mash. I live at 14808 Hillview here in Marysville. I'm a 1990 graduate of MHS, a business owner, a property taxpayer, and therefore supporter of the Marysville School District. I just wanted to make a few points about Ohio state law. Number 1, according to Ohio Revised Code, Title I, Chapter 119, Section 03G1, Governor Mike DeWine is violating Ohio law by extending emergency orders past the 120-day limit. The governor's lawful ability to make emergency orders expired July 9th, 2020. By extending emergency orders past the limit of 120 days allowed by law, our governor is in direct violation of Ohio Revised Code and is violating state law with impunity, I might add. Anyone enforcing these expired orders, including school boards, health departments, police departments, and prosecutors, are acting unlawfully and without any legal standing whatsoever.
Number 2, just as I can't walk up to you and place my hand over your mouth, you cannot block a child's mouth. Not with your hand, not with a mask, not with a face shield, and if you do, you are guilty of assault, a direct violation of Ohio Revised Code Title 29, Chapter 2903, Section 13A and B, that states, no person shall knowingly cause or attempt to cause harm to another. We just heard someone say their kid's coming home after show choir with headaches they've never had in their life. That's harm. Ohio Revised Code includes physiological impairment within the legal definition of physical harm, regardless of that impairment's gravity or duration. Physiological impairment means interfering with the normal functions of living organisms and their parts. Just as we don't eat our own excrement, we are also not to breathe our own exhaled carbon dioxide. It too is a waste product. Interestingly enough, I learned that in this very school system some 35 years ago. This is Ohio state law you are in direct violation of if you continue to force these kids to wear masks. Number 3, you guys are politicians. Politicians can be recalled and replaced with constituents who will not break Ohio state law and who will more closely align with family and educational values. The local board of elections will have information available on how to make such a recall happen. It would be an excellent opportunity to show your kids how local government works and what happens to those in elected positions who act unlawfully and don't have the best interest of those they work for at heart. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I do want to say, I know we've received, I know Mr. Smith has kept track of how many total emails as of like this afternoon, and I know it was 35, 40-ish, something like that.
Yeah, I received, and because I may not have.
Right, some were sent
received
individually,
all.
yes, some to the board.
I received 37
Okay,
emails.
Right.
And of that number, there were 30 that were requesting us to do something with masks. And there were 7 that were saying they preferred that we continue to follow some guidelines and so forth.
right,
So,
right. And I just wanted to I know that generally if we receive an email from somebody within our district, and the email is signed, it's my intent to respond and at least acknowledge the email, if nothing else. And I just apologize because with kind of the numbers of them and with our building visits this week and our meeting this week preparing for that, I haven't had a chance to acknowledge and respond to all of those. But we always, I just kind of remind everyone that we do appreciate hearing from people, and we value hearing all of those different opinions. We know in our committees, in our advisory committees, we didn't sit on any of those, but I'm sure, Diane, not everybody always agreed on everything, I would say.
There were multiple perspectives, even within the medical advisory and working with the health department.
Yes, and I think a lot of times that helps us to make the best decisions when we hear from a variety of perspectives and have some nice respectful discussion and determine what we think is best for our district, our students, our community. So anyways, thank you for all of those who participated in public participation. So next we have our superintendent's report.
Okay, I have several things to update.
I'm sorry, pardon me?
This is Ohio High Point report.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, Dan.
That's okay.
Oh.
You keep trying to skip me, but.
You know what? Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Ohio High Point report. Thank
Okay.
you, Ms. Savage. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Convocation for Ohio High Point is Friday, May 21st, tomorrow at 4:30 at Bell Fountain High School. They can't hold the commencement at High Point because of the construction activity. And it's just prior to the actual Bell Fountain High School graduation. So there'll be 2 graduations in one evening. This past week they had signing day. High Point partners with Bell Fountain Schools, Ben Logan, Indian Lake, Riverside on May 4th to have their signing day. Construction walkthrough was done this past week, and right now they're in the middle of equipment delivery for all of the new air handling systems. So it's moving right along, and they'll have a very busy summer. FCCLA students advanced to the nationals in their vehicle safety competition. So that's a national award they're competing for. And in the Skills USA, they 8 categories they placed, 4 of which were gold, and of which they received IT, technical computer, aviation, digital cinema, and barbering. So they have some good success from the students there at the High Point campus facility.
Nice, excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions of Nan? Okay, thank you. Now, Ms. Allen.
Several things. I wanted to talk to you briefly. I did send an email, I think Ms. Devine, you responded today. We'll shoot to do our strategic plan launch with the board July 19th, so I'll work out those details. But I have started to do my building visits, and then also today, Mr. Smith and I, and Mrs. Devine, were able to attend the Realtors Association and start receiving some input from that stakeholder group as well. So as I talked to you before, we're launching really kind of those initial 2 questions. What are you proud of? And if you had a magic wand and could change one thing, what would it be? And I'm putting that together now. So I have a series of meetings with different groups, and I will have those prepared to share with you July 19th at that meeting. We'll also look to work with a futurist that's going to kind of talk about even post-pandemic the influences that are impacting really the world and what it may look like several years out. So we'll kind of take the mindset of this is where we need to go, this is where we are, and what can we achieve in the next 5 to 7 years to put us in a position to get to that end goal. So that's really kind of that outline. So that's underway. I will give you a little bit of a COVID update. Certainly our numbers have continued to stay low. You've heard tonight several of the changes in different guidelines released by the governor. So June 2nd is a lift of some of the restrictions. I also shared with you earlier this week or late last week some guidance from Ohio Department of Education from Governor DeWine that basically said schools are still status quo. Our recommendations remain in place as schools finish out to June 2nd. So as we move forward, I mean, it does, I think it was mentioned we have 4 days left. There have been lots of celebrations. As we move forward, we know with field days and certain outdoor activities, we have some leniency with face masks, and those are in place at the buildings, as well as at graduation. We are able to not have a face mask requirement because we have 6 feet of distance. The important thing for people to remember really is that, yes, there have been changes in guidance, but the guidance, a lot of those don't apply to schools. So when you dig deeper into those pieces of guidance, in effect, some of those don't apply. So the rules are kind of different at Walmart or Kroger than they are for us as a school district, or the guidelines. So we want to ensure. So some of the parameters, for example, with graduation, you don't have to face mask as long as you can ensure there's 6 feet of distance. So when you get into the quarantine, not quarantine, when you're bringing that volume of people in, while there is an outdoor, there is not a restriction, the restriction lies in you still have to have 6 feet of distance between family groups. So that does impact your capacity, even though there isn't a defined capacity number, if that makes sense. So all graduates are receiving 6 tickets. Originally we thought 4, and as everything was mapped out, we've been able to boost that to 6. The student body graduating class will be on the field 6 feet apart, but unmasked, as well as spectators will not be required to wear masks either.
And the graduation is going to be live streamed, and it's going to be showing on the big screen as well.
Yeah, on the big screen. It will be live streamed. I know Marcus and team have been practicing.
Yes. Thank you, Ted.
So as we look forward, and things continue to progress as they are, I mean, in the back of my mind, I would not foresee why we would need a face mask rule, if you will, policy moving into next school year. I mean, things seem to be trending the right way. We have vaccinations coming in place.
Right.
If I had a crystal ball, you know, I could tell you 100%, but I don't see anything that would make me feel like we would be masking up next school year.
But you don't have any reason to believe that there's going to be a mask mandate for next year?
No. I mean, especially with them being lifted in June. I mean, we've already said summer school will be a mask-free environment unless someone wants to, and we certainly, you know, that's a choice that a family could make if they would like to continue that, and they may for different medical reasons or whatever.
And I mean, I just kind of think back to what we've been doing this whole year, and like making very intentional decisions. And I think we've always said if we need to, for safety's sake, like become more safety cautious or something like that, we can do that on the turn of a dime. But for some of the other changes, it's always been important to give families a little heads up and a chance to make any adjustments that they might need to make. So, you know, when we switched from hybrid to 4 days back, and then from 4 days to 5 days, everybody had a couple weeks notice, you know, families and staff members, because not everybody has been able to get vaccinated if they wanted to. You know, I mean, they might have had some situation or something that has held them back from having that done. And certainly students, if they're interested in getting vaccinated, some of them may not have been able to get it yet either. So
I know that as one of the older people, the oldest person in this room, I remember the polio outbreaks that used to take place. And we don't think about that because people my age and more recent are vaccinated against polio. And I know that there's research now looking at children under the age of 12 in terms of vaccines, and currently down to age 12 vaccines are available. So I'm hopeful that as we move forward, our numbers continue to go down. Personally, I think vaccines will help us to achieve the goals of no mask and make us safer. So.
Okay. I think I blended right into graduation there, so I apologize for that. But reminder, 7 p.m., and I think Mrs. Spencer has communicated directions for all of you. Virtual Academy, we talked about that a little bit last month, and we are going to be moving forward. So we are currently working on a letter that will go out hopefully tomorrow to families currently enrolled in grades 6 through 12 for a commitment. And the structure at this point is asking for a semester commitment to Virtual Academy headed into next year, or they can come back to Marysville schools. We are going to do that in collaboration with the other school districts. Marysville is going to kind of take the lead to get us launched because we have the higher number of students. So we'll do a shared resource model. For example, Adam from Fairbanks is bringing a portion of an administrator over to oversee. We're purchasing the license So we'll be offsetting costs that way. So to me, it seems like a win-win, and it certainly aligns to our mission to provide a variety of opportunities for an educational platform for students. I just want to share, I know we've all had doubts about how virtual was going to go. I had an amazing conversation with a teacher yesterday in this building who said, I had the same student last year face-to-face and he would not engage. And she said he's grown 3 grade levels on a virtual platform. So while it might not be for everyone, it is for some. And I'm proud to be able to offer that option kind of in our toolbox for students and families. I did want to also mention, I think I heard it, career signings. We've had internship presentations. We've watched academic signings over the past week, and it's just such a great time to celebrate and recognize our students and staff for the great work that has taken on despite COVID maybe. We watched several kids sign agreements with companies where they're going straight from school to the workplace, some of which are getting tuition to finish their education. So real life changing events. So I just wanted to highlight those. So lots of good things happening here at the end of the year. I also wanted to share with you this year, we had the science adoption. So Chris put together a little video for all of you to kind of highlight the process.
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris Campbell and I am the Instructional Innovation Director for the district. I'm here to talk to you today about the science curriculum adoption that we had ongoing this year. I was the lead admin on the team, so I'm just going to run you through our process and how we were able to come to a final decision and recommendations. First, we always start with a timeline. We have our year timeline that we work through and to keep us on pace and on target. Then we gather a team together, and we have always include teachers, make sure that they are involved in the process. We have some driving factors that we look at. We then have a decision framework that we go through, and then we make our final recommendations to Diane, Jonathan, and the Board of Education. Our timeline begins in the fall of 2020. We were a little delayed out of the gate because of COVID this year, but we got up and running by October, where I was able to gather a team together. By winter of 2021, we were looking at pilots and demos, and we were vetting through products at the building levels. By spring of 2021, we had identified the resources we wanted. We were gathering our quotes, and then I am here now presenting to you what our final decisions were based on our framework and our guidelines. The team, really important. Each building is represented by a teacher. It's important that everyone has a voice in the process. I also like to include the coaches. They can help support and flank that teacher in the building to make sure that they are able to get all the information needed. And of course, I like to welcome the principals, and we had a couple that wanted to be part of the committee this year, so that was helpful and nice. The teacher involvement is the critical part of the committee. I asked them this year to go in and audit the buildings for me, let me know what was being used effectively, what was ineffective, and what did we think was not meeting the needs of our students, whether due to the rigorous content or just not effectively teaching the science curriculum. From that, they were able to identify some needs that we had, and we definitely were able to identify some gaps. The teachers then would go in, they were leading demos and pilots for me. I would gather those together. They would then decide which ones they wanted to pilot and vet through the best products. During the year of COVID, it was really important that teachers were able to go in and be those leads for me in those department discussions and in those building discussions at the grade level teams. I wasn't able to get in, and so it was really important that they could do that for me, and I asked them to step up, and they did a really good job of working through that in the year of COVID. The driving factors that we look at is, of course, it needs to meet the PL vision of the district. How can we personalize science for our students? They're meeting the needs. We also really are focusing on cross-curricular instruction. So we want to see more science and social studies embedded in ELA. And the same is true in science and social studies. We want to see ELA embedded in them. So when we're looking at science, we're making sure that we have rigorous content that is also ELA focused. Of course, it's really important to always provide choices. And so I believe strongly in letting teachers have choice of how they want to instruct, but also students have choices so that they can learn in multiple different ways. And then finally, obviously the budget is always an important factor in what we purchase. Decision framework, we want to make sure that all the teachers and students are benefiting. We're looking for a core science curriculum at K through 12. We're also looking for supplemental resources in science K through 12. And then we want to make sure that the teachers have made the choices, that it's not being made from the committee, but it's feedback from all the buildings and the teachers in those buildings, so we're meeting their needs. Another thing that's really important to me is that we're not just looking at science products, that we look at products that meet the needs for all teachers and all students. So some of the things we looked at were some assessment things that teachers can use that will give formative and summative feedback, whether it's science, math, ELA, social studies. Okay, so and the same thing is true with some of the other products that if you're a kindergarten teacher and maybe you're not, you can use something for ELA and science. We have products that will meet the needs of all of our teachers, even a science teacher at the high school or an ELA teacher at the high school. We have purchased things that can be used by everybody so that the money is spent is being spread across the district and not just in the science lens. Finally, we have our final decision. And again, it was really important the final decision was made that all grade levels and all buildings had a voice in our decision. We made sure that all the resources we purchased were spread across all the grade levels so everyone was represented. And finally, we made sure that we had the cores and supplementals provided. I think we were able to meet the needs of all the buildings in the science adoption this year. I think that most people should be happy and everyone did have a voice, so that makes me happy. I think that our students will benefit and we made sure the content that we purchased was going to be rigorous and give some flexibility for teachers and students in the classroom. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer or share any of my insight in the committee. Have a good afternoon.
Great, so we try to share that every year before we make that purchase, and this year was the science adoption, obviously, and I think you've heard us talk about integrating those content areas more over the past couple of years, so that was a significant focus. So I kudos to Chris and team for leading that process in COVID, because we weren't even going into buildings at that time, so I know it wasn't the easiest charge for this year.
So good. Thank you, Chris.
Sure. I also wanted to give you an update on extended learning opportunities, so I think we have a video from Ashley as well.
Hi, I want to give you a quick update on our progress on our summer extended learning opportunities offered by the district. But before I do that, I just wanted to share how thankful I am to have almost made it, and how grateful I am for all the work that the teachers, the leaders, the families, our students put into making this year happen. It just really makes me proud of the effort put forward, because I know it was a complex and difficult year for everyone. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you for your support. Now to update you on our summer extended learning opportunities, to stay true to being everything we can be as far as connectivity to our students and being there for them. Our schools have done a really, really nice job stretching their effort once again. Our elementary schools are working together to design a STEAM camp that occurs in 2 weeks in June and 2 weeks in July. It will be taking place at Northwood in June and Mill Valley in July. The students are getting academic support in reading and math, and the majority of the time they will be working together finally on STEAM camp type opportunities that are science-based. They're working on their habits of mind, like collaboration, responsibility, and just keeping their curiosities alive in healthy and productive ways. At Creekview, they have planned virtual academic support in June. They have in-person and virtual clubs that are passion and interest-based. And they have a targeted intervention bridge in August for students who might need an extra boost before the school year starts. So we really appreciate creating those opportunities all throughout the summer. Similarly, Bunzold is collaborating with BASE, which is a really cool experience that promotes connectivity with our middle schoolers. It does take place 4 days a week in the month of June. We have planned academic support as well as enrichment, and Mrs. Kaufenberger has stressed how important it is for her to make sure that her students feel supported, feel like they belong, and feel like we are here for them. So I'm excited to hear how the Bunzold enrichment goes. The high schools have designed some opportunities for students to engage with planning around interests that they might have passion around. It could be some projects in ag. There's a teacher leading a transcendentalism course, an experience. Mr. Chapin has talked about connecting with a text around designing your future, exploring yourself, your strengths, and considering what steps it might take to actualize future readiness. So they also are offering credit recovery for students who struggled to master their standards this year, and that will take place in June and the first part of July. We closed registration May 12th so we could complete our planning to pull off our summer experience, and I am so proud to say that over 600 students will be engaged just in grades K through 8. We have lighter engagement in the enrichment portion of our high school experience. We have regular engagement in our credit recovery program, but over 600 students are wanting to come engage with our teachers. And I can't thank our teachers enough for, again, stretching beyond what they've already given this year to agree to help make those connectivity points with our students in the summer. We have offered opportunities to pay our staff to engage as we should, and they will be working on some planning in early June and early July, and as well working half days during the weeks of summer STEAM camp. Similarly, we hope to offer a high school employment experience where they can assist the teachers at STEAM camp to help work with students in our buildings. At Northwood and Mill Valley, we had such an overwhelming response that we have promised 2 weeks for every student if they were interested in 2 or more weeks. And then the students who just wanted 1 week get their week as well. So we need support to help kids transition safely, help pass out supplies for the STEAM projects, and just make sure that everything goes smoothly for this new experience that we've planned. We will be sure to share how the summer enrichment and extended learning opportunities go across the district. Hopefully you'll see pictures posted and kids will talk about having fun and feeling supported. So we look forward to the extra opportunities for kids over the summer. Thanks so much for your time.
So we temporarily had to close the K-4 registration because we did not have enough staff to cover. We've added staff, we've gone with the 2-week time frame, and we'll be able to take everyone who was on the wait list or expressed an interest in coming. So excellent. That was important to us. We just needed a second to organize. So I'm really excited. We have COSI kits at the K-4 level that students will be using, and there will be intervention happening as well. So I'm really excited for those.
Okay. I know you said something about the board, if any board member wanted to help
yes,
volunteer.
I think more than once I've said something. If you are interested in volunteering a day or multiple days or helping kids, I think one of the biggest fears kids getting off the bus, getting to the right place, kids getting out of the building, back into the right place. So shoot Karen Wells an email, and she will take you in very willingly.
Any day, right?
Any day in that.
Beginning, ending, anytime.
Yep.
Yep.
Extra hands.
Good.
I also wanted to remind everyone that our community survey launched. We've been talking about our next potential levy ask, and so it started on the 18th. So that those will be calls made to the district. After 10 days, we will post that same survey to our website. We'll also push it out to our families to get more answers to the questions. But really, I did share the survey with all of you. It is centered around understanding an interest of property tax and understanding an interest of an income tax, so that before we launch down that road, that we can share with the board as a way to help you make a decision about which way we want to head. I wanted to give a shout out to the team at Mill Valley. I don't think we mentioned them in a previous meeting, but we wanted to recognize the members of our Mill Valley Autism Intervention Team for receiving the Outstanding Student Achievement Award through Ohio Department of Education. Also, on the housing conversations, we have not had a meeting lately. Todd did receive a call from a city council member asking the school's interest in talking with city council about the impacts of new development on the school district, so we'll be looking forward to that.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. I just want to back up to the Mill Valley and give them a round of applause, the intervention team. We had a chance to see some of them in some building visits this week, so we were able to thank them in person too, but that's we're really proud of them.
And it's a substantial population of students that they're servicing every day. And as just a reminder, those students were in school 5 days a week.
Yes.
All year long. So those teachers were working hard all year, along with all the other COVID restrictions.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was going to mention this a little later, but we had some building visits, and I had an opportunity to speak with the teachers at Bunsell that were involved in that. And because on Wednesdays, they were pretty much it. They had some really unique opportunities to bring in other teachers and other experiences for the students. Those students that were in the C group, they just had a tremendous opportunity. So that was exciting.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions of Diane and any information she shared in her report? Awful lot going on.
It's a very busy time.
Appreciate the work for the curriculum and for the science curriculum and the summer strategic plan. I mean, I know they've worked, and the committee, the people that help with those extended learning opportunities, really appreciate their work, and it is exciting to see that many students have an interest to stay connected. And as we heard in our building visits, the focus is not 100% academic. It's really that connection and relationship and just kind of keeping an eye on them, making sure they're ready for next year. So. Treasurer report.
So for my report, we've got the May 5-year forecast on the agenda. It is the same forecast that was presented last month, so there's nothing needed changed at this point. I just wanted to discuss a couple things pertaining to the forecast. One, our Esr funding. So Esr 1 funding has almost been entirely spent. That was around $300,000. We've got a little bit left to go. We'll probably spend it possibly this month. If not, it'll be fully spent in June, I believe. The majority of that money was spent on basically current staffing, which was allowable for the grant because it was allowed to make up for the cut that we received in our state funding. Esr 2 money is now available. We're a little over $1 million for that. Plans for Esr 2 money will be, that money we use to pay for our academic coaches, which aligns well with the allowable purposes of that grant. And then Esr 3, which is going to be a little over $2.3 million, should be allocated within the next week or two, I believe. And at that point, we're going to be required to, there's a little more strings attached with Esr 3, so we'll be taking care of, all of those strings coming in the next few weeks. We'll have to develop a plan and upload that plan. There's going to be some requirements that we'll have to put on our website and those kinds of things. So that's where we are with Esr. I talked last month about state funding and noted that that's one of the the biggest risks to the forecast. And there was a risk of it going up or it going down. I would think at this point where we're at, I really don't feel like there's a large risk now. And that's kind of a good and a bad, because I don't think there's a big risk that it's going to go up significantly, but I also don't think there's a big risk it's going to go down significantly. Right now I feel like we're probably pretty close to in the ballpark with our projections, unless something changes significantly in the next month and a half. And Diane mentioned we're talking about levies coming up. Depending on what route we go, we could potentially, again, based on the numbers as they are today, which those things could change, but we could be looking at anywhere from 2022 to 2023 for the levy. The reason for the change in timing would be if we went with an income tax versus a traditional property tax levy. An income tax takes longer to get up to full collection, so you have to pass that sooner. If based on the numbers we have right now, we would probably be looking at about 0.75% of an income tax, and that would be an earned income only, so that would not apply to like Social Security wages. That would have to be passed in 2022. Basically, the equivalent of 0.75% income tax would be 7 mils of a property tax. So if we went with the traditional property tax route, that would most likely be in 2023 that we would try to pass that.
Okay. And so if you did the income tax in 2022, when would people see that on their tax return? They would start
Seeing it in January of 2023 was when they would start paying taxes.
Okay, so they would pay taxes on their 2022 income?
They would pay, it would be based on actual income.
Right.
So it would be basically current.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be paying it on your 2022 income.
Okay.
It would be the
Gotcha.
current
Okay.
income.
It'd be your 2023 income,
Correct.
so your return that you filed in 2024.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And then for the income tax option, how many years is it usually, or is it just continual?
It's actually, you do have options. In general, you typically see them passed as ongoing, most commonly.
Okay.
That's all for me.
Okay. Any other questions? No? You look like you're thinking.
I was just going over the difference between the income tax and the property taxes, because property tax creates a burden on property owners only, correct? And then income tax is applicable to everyone earning income?
Yes.
Is that people employed in the county or people employed outside of the county?
So with a school district income tax, it's based on where you live, whereas a city income tax, it's based on where you work.
Okay. There's just been a discussion in another venue, so I
Yes.
just wanted to
Clarify
understand
that.
where that puzzle piece fits in.
Right. And like you said, the survey going out explains, for the people who get the phone call, I know it explains some of the differences in there. And so then when it's on our website, and I'm sure there will be other emails and letters and things like that to people to help explain that difference. Okay. thanks for starting that. I think it's important to get going and helping to educate people in just some of the different options and everything. So, for my report, I wanted to start by saying that last month I had received a comment. Somebody watching the meeting said, board members are all just sitting there looking at their computers. And I wanted to let people know that the main reason that we do that is that we use Board Docs, which is a paperless digital access platform to our agendas. It has our district policies on there. If there are attachments, details behind some of the things that we're going to be voting on, they're all in here on our laptops, and so that's why people are watching their laptops. I don't think anybody's playing games during our meeting or anything like that. So just kind of wanted to let people know about that, and also remind them that our agenda and also the monthly building reports, monthly building notes that we talk about are available to the public. So if you go to our district website and click on Board of Education, you can click on Board Docs agenda, and you can see what we're going to be discussing, what we're going to be voting on, and generally I think most of the attachments are available to the public as well. So now moving into student achievement. This month I just thought we finally were able to get into some of the buildings. Some of us had a chance to do some building visits, and so I just asked any of the board members who had done building visits to maybe if they'd be willing to share a couple examples of our focus on student achievements, things that you saw during the building visits that kind of reminded you of what our district is doing to support student achievement. Would you like to share something, Mr. Smith?
I would.
All right.
I would. And I'm going to go back to Bunsell. I had a great visit there. Michelle Koffenbarger, a principal there. We went through and we got an email on the cleaning procedures and so forth. We went back and we went into the custodial area, and she was able to show me the machines that are used, and we discussed the different types of cleaners that are used in the building and so forth. But as we got into the classroom areas, the kids, the thing that always impresses me is how engaged the kids are in the classroom activities. You walk into a classroom, and when I walked in, there's a stranger. They look, but they are they're working. They're focused. Some of them are in small groups. Some of them are working individually. Teachers are either moving around the classroom or working with a small group off to one side. But just in terms of the focus that I saw there up at Raymond, it was tremendous. At the early college, walked into a science classroom, and they had a question that they were debating. And so you had one group from one side of the room had come over, and they were making their presentation and trying to convince people on the other side of the room, to support their position and so forth. And it was a tremendous exercise. So, always interesting. Really glad we had an opportunity to get in before the year ended and see what was going on in the buildings. I made a comment today that to someone at the realtors meeting that anyone that has not been in a classroom in our district in the last 6 or 7 years has no idea of where education is in this district. For everybody that's older, the experiences that the kids are getting are just absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, Ms. Savage.
Yep. So, number one, it was absolutely great to get into the schools and see the kids. It's always kind of a heartwarming experience, and to see kids and the teachers interacting and see what they're working on. A couple things that I saw that I was really impressed with. At the early college high school, they were doing elevator pitches, which is a really neat way of forcing a student to summarize their complete argument into a very short period of time and try and do a salesmanship pitch within average elevator time. So I couldn't remember, maybe 60 seconds they had to pitch their idea. Thought that was very interesting. Loved seeing first grade camps at all the schools. They had little paper fireplaces, or they had a digital fireplace going, and kids were roasting marshmallows and
some tents.
Yeah, pitching tents, and they had their tie-dye shirts on. So those are the type of experiences that kids really, really hang on to, and they were enjoying every second of it. We talked to some of the teachers about, that it was a difficult year and that we were extremely grateful for all of their efforts. And I was surprised that several teachers kind of pointed out, yes, it's been a difficult year, but we really learned a lot, and it forced us to maybe try things that we had kind of thought about but hadn't really tried. And some use of technology, I think they kind of had to jump in, and some things they found that they liked and some things they found that they didn't like, so they can pick and choose what they want to carry on into next year. And that there was a lot of comments about during the hybrid schedule, the ability to have half the kids in the classroom, that even though it was only 2 days a week, they were kind of able to form quicker relationships because there were half the amount of kids there. And then also forced some kids to become a little bit more independent on their hybrid days. So again, students have picked up some skills that maybe they didn't have. Teachers picked up some skills that maybe they didn't have. And everybody can choose what they want to pull into the rest. So everyone had a really positive attitude. Kids seemed really happy, really well adjusted.
Yep.
So very glad to welcome people into the room and enjoying the activities. Saw a lot of read alouds going on the last week of school there, and then a lot of outdoor exploration activities. So getting kids out of the classroom, outside, exploring nature, applying science or reading into those activities. So it was a great experience.
It was great.
Though I was totally wore out after 2 days.
I know. I know. It's a long day. And you didn't have a chance to.
No, I missed it this time.
Okay, that's all right. But I do have, when you're talking about some of those outdoor activities and looking for animals and stuff, we did also walk into a science classroom that was, what's that called? They were dissecting, they were dissecting a mink in there. So our guide and Nan stayed out in the hallway, but I found it very interesting. So, I think everything that you said, it kind of reminded me when I read the building notes. I thought the early college high school kind of summed up a lot of the work that I think is going on throughout the district based on many of the conversations that we had with teachers. And so in early college, he said, we're very focused on how we can take full advantage of new skills and instructional models that our staff gained from hybrid and remote learning, and making sure that they're catalysts for student learning moving into the future. Says many of our teachers are experimenting with iterations of an in-person hybrid model of learning where they workshop with 2 smaller groups inside of 2 separate spaces in our building. So just so many creative ways that they are using these new tools in challenging times to really continue to give our students so many different choices. And they do that because they're seeing how students excel in different settings, just like we talked about that virtual academy. There's going to be a group of students that are great at virtual academy, great in the hybrid setting, because they said maybe some students who aren't as sociable could handle coming to school 2 days a week. They didn't really like coming to school 4 or 5 days a week. So again, it's just that realization that every child has a different way of learning, and we just continue to try and hone what we offer. So I thought it was a great example of how we're focusing on student achievement here. So next, that I'm asking a little bit of input from is the Board Leadership Institute was this last month. And so if anybody, just kind of open it up to anybody if they want to share something that they took away from that Board Leadership Institute. It was virtual this year. In the past when we've gone, there would be breakout sessions and you could choose between 3 breakout sessions. This time they had a keynote speaker, and then I think they had 3 breakout sessions on Friday and 2 I think on Saturday morning. And the nice thing is if you were not able to attend them all on Friday or Saturday, they're available. They've got videos, and I think that's really one of the benefits that we've seen throughout this past year is that there's a lot of things that are available for you to watch at your own convenience. So did anybody have a highlight that they wanted to share from Board Leadership Institute?
Well,
Okay, she was first. Miss Savage, yes.
Sorry. So Jerry Brooks was the outside speaker, and I don't know if everyone's familiar with him, but he does very funny videos regarding situations that you have as an administrator with schools relating to parents and teachers, and they're on Facebook or YouTube or wherever they are. But he had some great information about climate and culture, and he covered a number of issues, but I kind of just hit on 3. One is talking about looking through others' lenses, and he used the example of he gets those pairs of reader sunglasses, and he uses them and gives them to teachers at the start of the year, and this is when you need to kind of look at things through someone else's lenses. And then he gives you a funny story about how, you may be seeing things through your perspective, but during the day, put on that pair of glasses physically and look at it from someone else's. Look at it a parent's perspective or a grandparent's perspective or another teacher's perspective. So I thought that was really handy. Also, light switch, talking about wellness, being able to take care of yourself as a teacher or administrator, have a physical light switch, and when you leave the building, flip the switch. So don't carry all your stress and anxiety home with you from work. And then when you get back to school, flip the switch back on. So no matter what career path you're in, that's probably good advice. Carrying that stress 24/7 wears on everyone. And then he called it PB&J, but it's professional behavior and jealousy. And talking about how you have to remind yourself that you need to be happy for others when they succeed, that other people's success is not your downfall. And he does it in a very funny, humorous way. I'm sure you can look him up on Facebook and watch all of them. But I think he communicates the whole concept in a very humorous way, but it actually touches home. So I thought that was super interesting. And then one of the later ones, they talked about the voucher systems, and it's just kind of a reminder that we maybe all need to keep in mind that the whole voucher system in the state of Ohio is $1.5 billion, that's with a B, yearly spending, and that 30 districts take 95% of the vouchers. So that's kind of was a very interesting point, and they used examples of how some private schools take the voucher money, but once the student doesn't perform academically or sporting-wise, they put him back in the public schools, but they still owe the tuition money, and then they withhold the records for that student. So in many cases, those students cannot graduate. And the public school districts have to fundraise to try and pay off the private schools because of that situation. So it was kind of enlightening. I hadn't really heard that aspect discussed before.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, every year that I've been on the board, I've gone to this institute, and I'm always reminded of things which I know that were not at the top of my thinking, and so it moves them up and makes me more aware, more conscious of them. If I had to pick out a couple of highlights, I think I would echo Nan on that. Those were really good presentations. And as you look at particularly the voucher issue, it reminded me that our district is supposed to be receiving under the current funding model $6,020 a year. And when we actually receive from the state $4,020. And when we have a student that goes somewhere and takes goes to a charter school or community school, the state will withhold $6,000, and so we end up with a $2,000 shortfall for each one of those students. And the voucher programs and the situation that I just described are not necessarily all intertwined, but it does show to me that the state legislature is putting money into private education for children in this district, and the state mandate in the Constitution is that they fund the public, the common schools in Ohio. And so I know, because that's something I've been working on, is trying to get our legislature to look more seriously at how they're spending money in terms of the public schools, and what the impact of some of their decisions on our students in this district. So.
Well, I was able to attend some of the sessions as well, and remotely, and of all the things that were presented, the one that I've been pondering the most is, what was the keynote speaker's name?
Jerry Brooks.
Yeah, this idea of putting on different glasses and seeing it through different points of view. So as a board member, we don't have the luxury, at least I don't think we do, legitimately, of just taking one point of view and going with that. If we do that, I don't feel like we're doing our job. So for something like the mask issue, I was thinking about that in particular. So we have a very strong point of view that we've been learning about from the emails and from the public participation, and I listen to all of that, and I find that very valuable input, and I take it seriously. But we're also getting input from teachers, we're getting input from families where their kids, for example, have health issues. There are families that are still really afraid of this virus. There's administrators who have to staff, I don't even know how you did it this year, the logistics of keeping the staffing going. And somehow we have to take all these different points of view. We also have the point of view of the county health officials who are looking at the health of the whole community. And it's very messy and it's confusing, and of course we're operating in a system where we have incomplete knowledge and it's changing knowledge. But that's what we're called to do, and so I was thinking about that point a lot, that's actually a conscious act to take a person and try to take up their point of view and take it in, even when it may conflict with others in the district that are equally important.
Yep. Good point. Amy, did you want to, okay?
Nope, nothing more to add.
Okay, and I know one that kind of caught my attention, it's kind of aligns to what you were saying, Brian, but the family engagement presentation, and they said that family engagement is families, education programs, and community partners working together to help children and youth learn, grow, and prepare for their future. And as I thought about it just over the past few weeks, I said that, well, really thinking about this whole past year, how it's really brought us closer as we've had to navigate this new environment together. but it's also challenged us because we've had either no or much less face-to-face opportunities to communicate, and we've dealt a lot more with social media posts and maybe people bringing in information that's from other parts of the country or from national levels that may or may not apply to our own local community. And so it's just kind of that reminder to encourage people in our community to focus on our common ground, to continue to listen respectfully, and I feel like that's something, I hope that's something that we've modeled. I feel like that's something we've modeled this whole year, but to try and understand other people's opinions as well. You know, which kind of ties into that, the first object lesson that you were talking about, which was the reading glasses and the reminder to look through someone else's lens with sympathy, empathy, understanding. And so it doesn't mean that you have to agree all the time, but you do need to try and understand that other person's point of view. So clearly, I think there were a lot of really good presentations, and like you said, it's always a nice refresher, a reminder of some things for us to think about, and there's also some good examples of things going on in other districts with the breakfast kiosks that they wheeled through buildings to, you know, help kids have a nice healthy breakfast. And for mental health, they had a Hope Squad in Milford School District with some peer-to-peer suicide prevention, where they trained on signs of suicide, which we do here in our district as well. You know, so again, a lot of good things, I think, from that.
Yeah. And I'd like to say that, you know, when you and I have talked about and commented on some of the things we've gone to, people come up and say, well, we've got this exciting new program.
Yes.
And we listen and we say, well, we've been doing that for 4 or 5 years.
Right,
okay?
right.
And they come up and say, well, we just instituted this. And
yes.
It's like, well, yeah, that's something we've been doing for a while.
Right.
So it's affirming that many of the things that we're doing, others are also finding value in. And I really like
yes.
that. I appreciate that.
Yep, I do too. Let's see, then I noticed the Monarch Monthly went out today, and that kind of reminded me that we need to do a shout out for our Unified Arts teachers as well. That was one thing that I noticed in our building visits. Those Unified Arts teachers, I mean, every single staff member has had a challenging year, but those Unified Arts teachers, many of them ended up covering a variety of multiple Unified Arts areas. You know, the music teacher might have done gym as well, or they might have done art, or they maybe did all 3 or 4 of them, you know. But again, it was that attitude. They're like, yeah, I'm exhausted, but it was fun. And when you even look about this science curriculum and that focus on cross-curricular, I mean, you can teach every subject doing one activity. You know, and I think, so I just want to shout out to our Unified Arts teachers. And then, let's see, we also, a reminder that we have a work session this coming Monday where we're going to be discussing our board protocols and the orientation book that Nan and Brian have a starting draft for us to discuss. So that is going to be at 4 o'clock at the Early College High School, the Project Lab. I think that's it. Legislative report.
All right. I sent you all a report just as this meeting was beginning. I submitted written proponent testimony to the Ohio Senate Primary and Secondary Education Committee, and they were looking at some changes in state law. And I included what I sent into them in terms of the Fair Funding Act, so that you can read that. I had a phone call with Representative Tracy Richardson, and my notes of that phone call give you an idea of the issues that we talked about, and also the issues that I've kind of focused on because of a belief that those things would really impact us. Sent some emails and texts to both Senator Reneke and Representative Richardson, primarily on the budget. which is the #1 topic in the state legislature. The budget has to be approved by June 30. I think the last 2 years ago when they did this, it wasn't until July 3 or 4 that they got it done. They had, I don't know whether they stopped the clock or whatever to make it work, but this is kind of a lull where everybody's kind of talking about things and people are coming up with some ideas, so things are kind of simmering down there, and I expect in June that the heat will turn up and we'll see some sort of decision that be made. One of the things that Representative Richardson and I spent some time on was House Bill 61, which requires single-sex sports teams. Have no idea where this is going to go. Currently, the Ohio High School Athletic Association has a policy that applies to transgender students, and the focus of this bill is very specific to transgender students. And I have, if you want to look at it, I have the Ohio High School policy. It goes into some depth. I've got little pieces of it and a link for you that you can follow. As I said, I'm not sure where that discussion is going to go, but the ramifications for a school district are pretty significant. But I tried to also raise with the representative that the repercussions on an individual student or a small group of students could be very significant. And our school district has always tried to allow every student to maximize all of their talents and skills, and we have tried to make sure that all the doors and access for opportunities are open to them. And so we'll kind of follow that one and see where that goes. Also encouraged some movement on school bus safety issues and so forth, and I will let you read those things. So,
could I go back to the HB 61?
Sure.
So I heard that this was going on. I haven't looked into it myself, and I don't actually have a stance on it because I haven't really delved into it. Is that something that we need to examine, like ourselves or as a board, and figure out? Or
I think we need to, like a lot of things, we need to educate ourselves. In looking at we have had transgender students in our state for years, and they have competed under the guidelines of OHSAA. And there are times when I think things are being handled appropriately, and where maybe new state law is not needed, that, you know, what we're doing works. And certainly there are going to be opinions all over the place on something like this. And people will come at this from a variety of different positions. But as in any situation when you're dealing with individuals, there are the policies and the laws and the regulations, and then there's the impact on the individual. And if you have a young man or a young woman that feels like that they are different than the body that they were born with, it is a complicated situation. And I think Ohio High School has looked at this. They have some very specific guidelines on who competes on female teams, who competes on male teams, what the parameters are, hormone treatments, and all sorts of things like that. I am not knowledgeable at all on all the medical issues And so, you know, you get into that pretty quickly. My push to, or comments to the representative were meant to say, look at the individual. You know, you may hold a variety of personal opinions, but please look at how individuals are going to be impacted with this and try to make the best decision that you can make. I don't know what the right answer or solution was. My general approach would be to allow the current policies of OHSAA to kind of dictate how this is handled. And
so
like I said,
what happens to a transgender student who's in a sport if this bill passes? They can't compete?
The bill as presented says that you must compete in the gender, your birth gender.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so they can still compete.
Yeah,
okay, but
And
even
your
if they've
birth gender,
okay.
not the
right.
Okay,
So
yeah.
if you always get confused when you
Yeah.
start
Well,
talking
and I
about
do- and I think-
treating
and I-
males and females as to
I feel like some of your comments, Brian, are just maybe that encouraging for conversations with Tracy. Like if there are things that might be controversial, that perhaps the board should have a chance to review them and have some conversation.
Yeah, I think so, because it's a complicated issue, and I don't want to.
Prior to recommending a certain stance or something.
Well, I'll try to look into it, Dick. If you think that this is actually going to be
and I can
treated
give you,
seriously in the
like,
legislature, like.
Yeah, I mean, you can go and you can see, I have here the.
Some of these bills you talk about are just dropped like quickly, so.
Right. This is the testimony of the two proponents of the bill. And I've got a copy here of the material that I gave you a link to for OHSAA. So. But at this point, the legislature hasn't spoken, the law hasn't changed. OHSAA policy is where we are. And so I'm certain there'll be a lot of debate and a lot of discussion on this.
Right.
And just want to make sure that as we look at this, that we think about all the different sides, put our glasses on, and see this from different perspectives as we approach this.
All right. Any other questions or comments of Mr. Smith? All right, thank you. Next, any reports, any updates from our Safety and Drug Committee?
There's been 3 new, Ohio kind of quietly added 3 new health conditions to the medical marijuana list. So as we see this progressing, because we knew this was just an avenue to get to recreational, so it's quietly being added to the list, migraine headaches, such and such. So also researching an intervention program called iMind, which addresses smoking, alcohol, and other drugs with teenagers. So they're kind of looking at this right now and how it could integrate with the school's discipline policy. Okay. So it's like extra stuff, like maybe like weekend, like Saturday schools, and getting in depth in certain areas that they are involved in. So keeping an eye on that and see how that progresses. And that's it.
Okay. Ready to move on to our business portion of the meeting. So I would accept the motion to approve our draft minutes from the April 15th, 2021 regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powers. Any comments, corrections to the minutes? All right, then roll call, please.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. Next on our agenda, I would accept a motion to approve the treasurer CFO action items.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Savage, second by Mr. Smith. Any comments, Todd?
I would just note that our monthly financials look a little different because we were forced to switch our software went through a redesign, I guess. So it's really the same information, just looks a little different. Our appropriations this month, there's some significant decreases, which is unusual, but that's kind of some end of the year cleanup, getting some funds to match budgets to actual revenues. And I'll also just note that the 5-year forecast is on there for approval.
I know, Devin, I like the new look at the cash summary report. And I'm wondering if the disbursement report, they can adjust the column with. I mean, it's kind of funny. I like one of them. I like the way it looks better, and then the disbursement one, it seems like the columns are
I'll
kind
take a look. I didn't
messed
really.
up. But yeah, I thought those were nice. And as far as the 5-year forecast, you know, no changes from last month. But again, I think it's really nice to see that positive number, positive ending cash balance for all 5 years. And just really being intentional about planning for future possible levies and being intentional about trying to get input from our community. So, all good things. Any questions of Todd or comments? All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. Next on the agenda, I would accept a motion to approve the resignation of Emily Savage, effective the end of this school year.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powers. Roll call.
Well,
Miss-
before we do
Oh,
that,
you want to comment? Yes, sorry.
look, we don't wait for free agency like the professional sports, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and vote for this with reservations because I visited her classroom, and I know that she is very talented and very passionate, and we're going to miss her. But she is a free being. She gets to go where she wants to. But we're going to miss her. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I would say Emily's a very special young lady, a great teacher. And I'm sorry that she's not going to stay with her district, but I think also sometimes gaining a new perspective on education, having a new opportunity is a good thing. And I know as a teacher, I changed jobs a couple of times, and I grew from each of those. And so I wish her well.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Abstain.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, motion carries. And like we all said, we wish her the best.
Yeah.
And thank her for everything that she's done the short time that she's been here. Next, I would accept a motion to approve our superintendent items.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Powers,
Second.
second by Mr. Luke.
Sure, I feel like I have a packed portion and
You
we have
do.
special guests here. But
Yes.
we'll wait until after your approval, maybe? You want to do it that way?
Sure.
Okay, so first off, classified handbook, Lynette provided for you their revisions and completed copy. You have second read of policies, those are up for approval. We have Ohio High School membership. I was asked a question today why early college isn't listed. It's because we only have one competing team, so we only list under the high school. Very exciting, we have our graduating class on this agenda as well. We had various handbook changes on the buildings, overnight trips, Bunsell DC trip. I was asked about the price of that trip. That has not been established yet, but that is one that students, families are responsible to cover. As well, we have a laundry list of HR the way we provide services to our students, staff, and community, and really excited. We worked hard to really take in the strengths of the individuals on the team and how we might best align them to provide service across the district. So changes, as you know, Lynette submitted her resignation out of the HR office. We are not filling that position in a traditional role. Jonathan is shifting over to Assistant Superintendent over Human Resources and probably some ancillary things that are hanging out there. He's also going to be working to transition some other responsibilities towards Mr. Chapin and Mrs. Thompson as we move forward, so that there will be some work shared probably year one. Then Donna Lottage, my secretary, is actually going to stay my secretary but pick up responsibilities in the Human Resources office. She has a background with insurance and HR from a previous job, and even, I guess, early on in the school district when you first came, she served as assistant superintendent secretary and had some responsibilities with that. So then let's move to early college, high school. Mr. Chapin will be moving on to a new position, Director of Leadership and Collaboration. He'll be working with Jonathan to build capacity and leadership in the district. One thing that we really want to focus on is how we can identify talent, retain talent, and also grow our own leaders. And so I think that's going to be exciting, as well as really work with buildings on partnerships. Really even in the elementary space as well as the high school space. So addition of pathways and those types of things. Taking his place will be Tom Holdren, who is currently the Edgewood principal, who has a passion to get to the high school level. He has some junior high experience, and from the moment we hired him, he said, someday, Diane, I want to be a high school principal, so that worked out nicely. So Tom is excited about that. Also, on my recommendation is to shift Chris Campbell from innovation into the elementary space as an elementary principal. I was an elementary teacher by trade for years, very talented, so we're excited for that transition. He will continue to do some technology work for us, so stay tuned on how that evolves, but certainly our SIS system and unified classroom and some of those responsibilities. Ashley Thompson will be moving to a new position, Chief Academic Officer. So Ashley will be all things instruction. It's increasing her days really in the school district to a 260 contract. And then basically Jen Hinderer and Scott Stackhouse are flipping. Jen has a passion to be at the high school, has really fallen in love with some of the Tri-Light, Tri-2, T2 programming that's happened. And so we repositioned her there. At the same time, Scott's moving to Tri-Academy. Super excited about that, and we'll be also working on our virtual academy offering. So he will be our lead person in our school district. So a lot of shift, a lot of internal shift, but really strategic and mindful around people's talents and repositioning within the organization. And honestly, when people speak out and say, hey, I have a passion or interest, we want to grow that here instead of them taking an opportunity to grow that somewhere else. So some strategy behind each one of those moves. So we're super excited to get those shifts underway. All of those people impacted have had conversations with their buildings and know that it's my recommendation to move forward with that today. If the board were to approve those changes, the new person coming in has a scheduled meet and greet tomorrow with the new staff. We didn't want to do that too early. So,
Can I ask a quick question? So like we heard, we heard a couple of new positions in there. So overall, does that impact our FTEs at all, the number of employees?
Actually, staffing down,
Okay.
because Lynette's position would not be filled
Okay,
in that whole mix.
right.
Yep.
So just a
Otherwise,
real
it's-
creative, and innovative way to really, I think it like kind of more aligned with our strategic plan too, you know, like really focusing on student achievement, focusing on partnerships and collaboration, just, you know, having those three, Ashley and Jonathan and Ken, really kind of working together. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. Well, we always say we take every opportunity when it presents itself to kind of redefine and rethink, and maybe we're okay. But if not, I think we're open, and
Right.
I'm really
Try
pleased
something
with
new.
how that's.
Well, I know that we have said throughout the district that if you're going to do things and you're going to be good at it, you have to be intentional. And when I look at some of the changes, we are being more intentional about some of the programs and some of the opportunities that we're offering students. And so to me, it makes perfect sense in that way. The other piece is the fact that individuals like to grow and they like to see opportunity for growth. And I think this helps to illustrate that there is opportunity within our district for professional growth for individuals. And I know that we have had people who have wanted a different position or wanted to move up, and we didn't have space. And so I think the fact that we're taking advantage of the resignation of a couple of people to reconfigure and to rethink and to open up opportunities for growth and development is really a very good thing. And you know, I just see these people and what I know about them being just absolutely marvelous in the roles they're going to be taking.
And of course, the most exciting thing is the end result is going to be just the opportunities for our students.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Can I note one correction?
Okay.
So under the MEA assignments, we've got Greg Roars listed for co-insurance. That should be Meredith Burkhart. So that's an update there.
Okay, an update. All right. So that's in our HR.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that. And, well, yeah, and I do want to, since you mentioned Greg Roars, he is on there as retiring for next year. So I know we'll be able to see him in the fall next year, which is good because he's a great employee. And then,
Can I add?
yes, I know. I think you do have one more thing to add, don't you?
As you know, I
Yes.
emailed you, I think, late last night and said, hey, I have an interview tomorrow and a possible add to the agenda.
Yes.
And this rarely happens in my career. I can think of maybe 2 other times. But you know when you have a conversation with someone and you just know, and you're like, it was less than probably 2 minutes, and I knew that the recommendation we have on tonight for the boys basketball coach is the right recommendation. I think you'll hear it here in a couple minutes. So I would be remiss if I did not mention that was on here as well, and we'll provide the opportunity for some comment here in a little bit. As long as it goes through.
And that was, just kind of going back through that process. I know with the interviewing, we had, why don't you tell us a little bit about this whole process?
The process has been going on, it seems like forever, right? Probably for Joey and the team back there, but really they turned it around pretty quickly. So several layers of committee started with the team, and then that team, and then definitely community and coaches and players and parents and feedback that way. So they made a recommendation to me based on all those levels, and there was certainly one that was kind of a home run from the gate, I feel like. So he's on your agenda this evening.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions or comments about all of these numerous superintendent items? when you talked about the DC trip, it just kind of reminded me, when we visited Bunsold, normally that trip is in the fall, but this time they have scheduled it for the spring, just in case with the unknowns of COVID. So it's a May trip, but the positive is that's going to give families a lot more time to fundraise for this trip. And I think she was thinking it's like 700-ish, I don't know.
That's what it was last year.
Yeah.
And we all talked, that price could increase.
Exactly.
After COVID, so
Yeah.
I did not.
So I just wanted to, just kind of another one of those, just little details that I think are thoughtful, intentional planning. So I appreciate that.
I would make the comment that we've got a number of policies.
Oh, yes, second read policies, thank you.
And that a number of them are eliminations because they're expiring under the COVID rules that we have. And so some of it is getting rid of policies that will no longer apply. Most everything else is mandated by changes in law.
Correct.
So.
And maybe just another quick shout out that student fees overall, most of the student fees have dropped or stayed the same. So that's always good to see. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll accept the roll call.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, the motion passed. And now we would like to welcome you all up here and maybe hear something from our new coach.
I would like to say there's no height requirement to get in here tonight. Joey kind of sticks out. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, to piggyback off of what Diane said in her conversation with Coach Tinkenberg, this is Mark Tinkenberg. We felt the same. We felt like he checked every box. He is a relationship-centered coach that believes in driving kids to get the absolute best through relationships. And he has an extensive background. He's been the assistant coach at Dublin Kaufman High School, one of probably the leading program in terms of wins in the last 10 years in all of Central Ohio. And
not for long, right?
Not for long.
That's right.
No pressure. But there's a buzz around our kids. There's a buzz around the families that were involved in this process and the community members about him. And I think that it's very well warranted. And we're just very excited to welcome Coach Tinkenberg to Marysville Schools. So here he is.
Thank you. Diane, thank you so much for the kind words. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation earlier. And to you guys, thank you so much. And I just want to say I'm really excited for the opportunity. I can't wait to be a part of this community. Most importantly, I can't wait to be an example for the young men that are part of this program. And, we get a short time with these guys, and it's the most influential years of their lives. I said that the other night, and it's true. And my job is to help them become good men and fathers and whatever it is they do beyond basketball, because basketball is a very short part of their life. But my job is to build a relationship and be an example to them, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. I cannot wait to get started. So thank you guys so much.
Welcome
Thank
to
you. Welcome
Marysville.
aboard.
We'll be excited to see the team on
That's
the floor
right.
and to meet you, meet you face to face before too long. So.
Awesome. Thank you guys
Yeah,
so much.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you, team, for all the time and effort you put into making this decision.
Thank you, guys.
Recommendation.
Thank
Say
you.
One of the most impressive things about our conversation today, and he's probably thinking that was the shortest interview I've ever had. But I asked him to tell me about him, and the first thing he started with was family. And then it was about him as an educator. And then it was about him as a coach. And how they actually trickled down into one another, right? And at the core of who he was about his family. But each piece of that was an extension of him. And it was pretty powerful, which I think is really what we're about here.
Yep.
So I think it's a great match. So best of luck.
Okay. Go Monarchs.
Yes.
I would like to thank our administrators because they led a great recruiting process, and I know they spent countless hours, lots of conversations, and congratulations to you for being the one that they recommended. But I know that there was a lot of time and effort went into it, a lot of thought went into it, and I know they will be very supportive as you move forward in your new position. So, yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for being patient.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I think we are to the comments and questions from board members. I'll start with you, Mr. Luke.
Well, I'm excited about Saturday.
Yes.
I have two daughters that are graduating this year, one from Tri and one from the early college high school. And it's been a very exciting week. They had their practice graduation this morning. And there was a lot of excitement in our house because they both had been in the virtual academy. So I had no idea if they knew how to get up at 8 in the morning anymore. And I think we got them there. I didn't know if I remembered how to get them there either. So I'm looking forward to Saturday. I'm glad that we were able to get the tickets to 6. I think it's going to be a very memorable night. And I'm very grateful to the district, everybody, for getting my daughters to this point. I also have one other comment tonight. I'm always happy and excited when people give us direct input, whether through email or coming here. I know not everybody likes to speak in public, so I appreciate them formulating their thoughts and showing up and letting us know how things are going for them and how they see what they think needs to be done next. I read every email that comes in. I don't usually answer them because Sue handles that, but I do read them and I take it in. And we discuss those issues that are brought up. This summer, there's going to be time to think about the fall. Things will be changing on the ground. We don't know exactly what the fall is going to look like, but a couple things that I want to keep in mind that I've been thinking about and that were brought up with our community members. One, it's true that we're not always mandated. There's only certain things that were mandated. A lot of the policies about health are ours. And I have never forgotten that, and I don't think we as a group have forgotten that it's our decision for most of these protocols, so we'll keep that in mind. And the other thing that I keep in mind throughout this is that we don't know that the children are the same as the adolescents. We've talked about that before. We don't presume that there should be one policy for every single kid across the district. And some of the participants also mentioned that this virus does seem to affect the little kids differently than the adolescents. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I will be thinking about this during the summer. I'll be following it very closely, and we're going to do our best to make good decisions in the fall.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
A couple of things. I was really excited about the building visits. It was great to have an opportunity, the first opportunity to get back in the building. And when I made the comment that this was the first day we were allowed back in the building, the teachers were surprised, but none of us on this board have any authority individually. It's only when we vote that we exercise any authority. And so kind of gave an opportunity to remind the teachers that we work through a chain of command, through our superintendent, and fiscal issues through our treasurer, CFO, and our range of authority and power is not infinite.
Yes.
And so that was nice. I was really impressed with a couple of things that were in the reports that were given. Seemed like that every elementary had some PTO activity that was going on, and I'd like to thank all the people that are members and leaders in our PTO organizations for the countless hours that they spend in support of our kids. They really help to enrich the opportunities that kids have in our in our elementary buildings. Raymond, they had a virtual visit to Creekview for their students to help them to try to make that transition a little bit easier. And I was glad for that. I understand that went really well. As Brian mentioned, I read every single email, and being the history government teacher that I am, I also looked at their resources, the articles and reports and so forth that they read or suggested we look at, and read some medical reports and studies and so forth. I would, the old teacher in me is make sure on your resource that you research places that you cite and make sure that they have credibility when you do that. But it is not lightly that we receive an email. Any communication is serious and taken seriously. So.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Savage.
Alrighty. Just kind of a shout out to all the activities that have been going on. Almost everyone we talked to on our building visit commented on how fast, once we hit March, how fast time went through. And that's absolutely true. And I actually missed several things that I typically try to attend just because they popped up on me so fast and I wasn't in the planning mode. But we had so many career signing days, athletic college signing days, academic signing days, internship presentations, scholarship night. We had prom. We had prom.
Yay! And they danced.
Last year, a year ago, I said, I want prom and I want graduation. And I'm so proud of this district for making those happen in the best way possible. Show choir community concert, the outdoor play uptown. So even under sometimes difficult, sometimes challenging situations, this district made those things happen for those students. So.
I just want to shout out to all the administrators, the entire staff of the Marysville school system for a very hard year, but yet very successful. They all made it happen. And I'm like Nan, I'm like, the graduation to me is going to be very special this year. Just to see these children be able to get up there and do this, and we owe it all to the staff for everybody making it happen. So.
Nothing for me.
Nothing for you.
I'm just happy end of the year.
Yes.
I'm so proud of everyone, and building visits have been incredibly positive. And like you, I've tried to not visit as much as normal, just trying to follow rules, and I'm super, super proud of everything everyone's given. I know people are tired, and
oh yes.
But field days are in the next couple of days, and all the great activities, and the weather's going to be great. So just happy end of the school year.
Yep. Well, and I just like what everybody's saying. I mean, it's just amazing when you think about how we started the year, and it seems like so long ago, and here we are at the end of the school year, and yeah, I'm incredibly proud too, and really just kind of seeing that excitement. I mean, the teachers are tired, our staff, all of our staff is tired, but their excitement from using what they've learned to move forward, that just makes me so darn proud. I also think a couple of recognition things happened after last meeting with we have 2 coaches of the year. I know we had talked about that, Coach Andrews for girls wrestling and Coach Ransom for girls basketball. Can't remember exactly the timing, but just wanted to shout out again because I think that's probably pretty rare that you have 2 coaches in one district get Coach of the Year.
Yes, and it's a statewide Coach of the
Yes,
Year
yeah.
designation, and I don't have any memory of that ever happening before.
Yeah.
And it may have, but that would have been a long time ago.
And then like you're saying, I mean, there's the fact that our kids have had so many opportunities. It's hard to keep up with everything. And so every once in a while I'll see something and I'll jot it down, and I know like our track team we've had some great efforts, specifically pole vault. Ms. Richlick had got the OCC Cardinal record. I think it was just last week. Our baseball, softball teams, and just all the other millions of things going on. All you have to do is drive around this school at like 4 o'clock or something, and it's just crazy. And the show choir and those kinds of things. So just amazing things happening. I was excited to see one thing I didn't talk about with our building visits when we went to Tri Academy, just encourage people to go to Coffee Hall, because they did some really neat projects at the end of the year. They always try to do some community-based projects. And so they had one group of students who did landscaping at the Hope Center. So if you drive by the Hope Center, the students there did some planting, and then they also have some plants that they were growing inside, like a little greenhouse area. And then another group of students did a photography project. So they took a field trip. They took pictures with their phones. They came back, they edited them. They learned all sorts of editing techniques. So not just clear it up or whatever, but changing colors of things. Then they framed the pictures and they gave them a title, and they partnered with Coffee Hall, so they are hanging on the back wall in Coffee Hall. So if you go in there, go to the back there, check out those pictures from our Tri Academy students. So, you know, just shout out to everybody, students, families, the people who came to speak to us. We really appreciate the partnerships and just the family feel in our community. So we're pretty lucky. And with that, I would accept the motion to adjourn. And we're really excited about Saturday. So, yes?
Yeah, I forgot. There was a notice in the paper this past week, and Betty Ship,
yes,
was a kindergarten teacher in our district for many, many years. Her husband was a social studies teacher in our district for many years, somebody I worked closely with. For a long time. She passed away, and her obituary is very fitting. It begins to think that she saw it on Mulberry Street.
That is her address.
Because the Ships lived on Mulberry Street.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, our condolences to her family, for sure. Thank you for that. Okay, and now I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Powers.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Roll call.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Ms. Devine?
Yes. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:30. Thank you.